Hello everyone, welcome to Fullmoon Movies. There are movies you admire for craft, and then there are movies you return to because they represent a very specific moment in cinema history. Anaconda firmly belongs to the second category. Released in the 1997 at the height of mid-budget studio thrillers and creature features, Anaconda arrived when Hollywood was still balancing practical effects with early CGI and when star power mattered just as much as spectacle. Watching it today in its 4K Steelbook presentation feels less like rediscovering a great film and more like opening a time capsule from an era when studios weren't afraid to make strange, pulpy, star-studded jungle movies and release them wide. Now, the premise is wonderfully simple. A documentary crew deeps into the Amazon to search for a lost tribe guided by a charismatic stranger who slowly reveals himself to be something far more dangerous. From the opening moments, the film establishes a tone that sits somewhere between adventure cinema and survival horror. Now, this isn't a slow burn psychological thriller, it's a movie that tells you upfront that the danger is coming, and the fun lies in watching how long the character can outrun it. At the center of the film is the ensemble cast, which is arguably one of the Anaconda's biggest strengths. Jennifer Lopez plays as Terry Flores, the determined documentary director who anchors the story with a grounded professional presence. She isn't written as a helpless character, and while the script doesn't give her deep emotional layers, Lopez brings credibility and resolve that keeps the film from tipping into pure camp. Now, alongside her is Ice Cube as Danny Rich, the cameraman whose skepticism and streetwise instincts provide both the tension and occasional humor. Their dynamic works because it feels practical, like there are these kind of people reacting to danger, not archetypes waiting to be killed off. There is also John Voight, whose performance as Paul Siroin has become the film's most discussed element of the years. Voight leans hard into exaggerated accent and theatrical delivery. While it has been criticized, it also what gives Anaconda its enduring cult appeal. His character isn't just subtle, but he's memorable. And in a movie like this, memorability often matters more than realism. Voight's Siroin is less a believable human being and more of a mythic villain, someone who feels as dangerous and unpredictable as a snake itself. Supporting roles from Eric Stoltz, Jonathan Hyde, and Owen Wilson round out the cast, each representing different emotional response to fear, curiosity, arrogance, humor, and panic. Now, what's interesting is that the film takes its time before fully unleashing the creature. It allows the group's dynamics to settle in, which makes the eventual chaos feel earned rather than rushed. From a storytelling perspective, Anaconda is very much a product of its time. The structure is straightforward: setup, suspicion, escalation, and survival. Now, there are no narrative detours or philosophical ambitions. But what the film does well is actually pacing. Director Luis Losa keeps the story moving, rarely lingering too long on exposition. The jungle setting itself becomes a character, dense, claustrophobic, and unforgiving. You always feel really boxed in, even when the river opens up visually, which adds to the tension. The snake, of course, is the main attraction. Watching it now, the blend of animatronics and early CGI is very noticeable, especially in 4K. And yet, there are certain charm to it. The physical presence of the animatronic snake gives weight to the action scenes, something many modern CGI heavy creature features lack. The CGI hasn't aged gracefully, but it hasn't aged disastrously either. It sits in that familiarity of the late 90s zone where ambition slightly outpaced technology. Rather than ruining the experience, it reinforces the film's identity as a transitional piece of cinema history. Thematically, Anaconda isn't trying to say just beyond as a basic cautionary tale about greed, obsession, and human arrogance in the face of nature. Paul Siroin's fixation on capturing the snake mirrors humanity's endless desire to dominate what it doesn't understand. Now, the jungle doesn't care about ambition or ego, and the film repeatedly punishes characters who underestimates it. While these ideas aren't deeply explored, they are clearly communicated through action rather than dialogue, which suits the genre. Now, watching Anaconda in a 4K Steelbook presentation adds a new layer to the experience. The increased resolution brings out textures of the jungle foliage, water surfaces, and practical effects that were less noticeable in earlier formats. And I can say no more, the Steelbook itself, the art design is really very good. Now, film grain is present but stable, and the color grading enhances the oppressive greens and muddy browns of the Amazon environment. Now, this isn't a demo disc designed to show off razor sharp visuals, but it's a respectful upgrade that preserves the film's cinematic look without over-polishing it. Audio-wise, the surround mix benefits from the jungle atmosphere, rustling leaves, distant animal calls, and even sudden violent movements of the snake all gain clarity and spatial presence. The score by Randy Edelman supports the tension effectively, leaning into classic adventure thriller cues rather than horror minimalism. It reminds you of a time when film scores were unafraid to guide the audience's emotions openly. Now, in terms of legacy, Anaconda has an unusual afterlife. It really spawned into sequels and spin offs that leaned further into camp, but none captured the same balance of star power, practical effects, and earned adventure like the first one. The original remains the most watchable not because it's flawless, but because it feels sincere. It knows exactly what kind of movie it is and never pretends to be anything else. Looking back, Anaconda represents a type of studio filmmaking that has largely disappeared. Mid-budget genre films anchored by recognizable actors, released theatrically and designed to be enjoyed by a wide audience. Today, films like these will likely to be streaming exclusively on heavily reworked into self-aware parodies. Now that makes revisiting Anaconda in a 4K feel a bit strangely refreshing. Now in the end, Anaconda isn't just a masterpiece, and it doesn't need to be. It's a solid, entertaining creature feature that thrives on atmosphere, memorable performances, and a sense of adventure that feels increasingly rare. The 4K Steelbook presentation doesn't reinvent the film, but it honors it, preserving a piece of the 1990s cinema history for viewers who understand that sometimes a movie value lies not in perfection, but in personality. Now, this movie is a must-watch.